going to be joined by Dr. Ramel Smith, who's with the Blacksmith Psychological Consultation Services. And Dr. Smith, we do know that you have been watching this unfold as well. Some of these pictures that are very familiar to folks here in Milwaukee. When you look at the cases that we have seen here, Dontre Hamilton comes to mind most quickly to us. But what do you see when you see those pictures of people on the streets peacefully demonstrating and protesting?
I see what every black person in America sees. You know, it's a frustration. It's not just about Brother Floyd, and my heart goes out to him and his family, but this is just a continuation what continually goes on. We're still on the heels of Aubrey Ahmaud. And so when you start to look at that, it's not a matter.
I think we lost you there for a second, Dr. Smith, so we're going to try to get you back. We're going to try to get you back in here. So you were talking about it's not just about George Floyd here.
Yeah, it's not just about George Floyd. It's about America. This happens consistently all too often. We were just dealing with Ahmaud Arbery down in Georgia. So the question with Black America is not always if, but when. If you look throughout social media, you talk to anybody who's willing to talk to you, our Black mothers are afraid that when their sons go out, they're not going to come back. We're afraid our brothers are not going to come back. Me, myself, I wonder every night if I'm going to come back to my family, if the hashtag won't be me and TMJ won't be showing this interview saying, wow, he said he could be a victim and he was a victim. It's a matter of being tired. It's a matter of being frustrated. And what you see in Minnesota is what Dr. King said, that the riots are the voice of the unheard. And when you think about these things, and right now, you're lucky that the rallies are still peaceful. And America has only been known to be violent. Its history is violent. So for America to ask people to be peaceful is quite hypocritical. But I think that just shows the magnanimous of a people to say, even though you do what's wrong, we're still going to try to love you in the way in which you say we should be doing business.
So yes, when you contrast what's happening in Milwaukee to what we, though, have seen 3 nights of violence in Minneapolis, and several people, including the mayor, speaking out about that. Here in Milwaukee, we also heard Mayor Barrett talking about understanding the outrage of what he described as watching a man being murdered. We also heard from newly elected Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley saying he understands what is happening in these situations as a black man who grew up in the Milwaukee area. But I heard from both of them too that if they're going to express their anger, if they're going to express their frustration, to do it in a way that is not violent, and that's what we are seeing here in Milwaukee. People taking to the streets to express their outrage. What are your sense of when you talk to people about the power of this message when they're doing this kind of demonstration?
Well, what I'm seeing is getting to be a lack of tolerance with this, because the people say we've prayed, we peacefully protested, we've pleaded with people to listen to us. And when you see what's happening in Minnesota, what you saw what happened in Milwaukee just a few years ago, it gets to a point where everybody has a limit. And it's ironic that people always say peace, yet whenever these peaceful demonstrations come out, there's often met with SWAT teams. They're often met with people who don't have the signs of peace. You look at what's going on in Minnesota, and you contrast that quite completely different what happened in Wisconsin and in Michigan at the state capitals when you have people armed to the teeth and they were met with no resistance. Of course, we want no bloodshed. We want no one to get hurt. But it's also a message that it's not just about Greg Floyd and police brutality. It's a systemic oppression that has been since the birth of America that has never been repaid. So it's something that we need to say. And I love that Brother David Crowley says something, that Tom Barrett says something. But I think it's time that we hear from all of our citizens, whether black, white, Latinx, or Asian. We need to hear from everybody, not just the usual suspects.
And when you say hear from everyone, we have heard from a lot of political leaders. We have heard from people who are speaking out about this. But when it comes to law enforcement, what is it that you want to hear? We saw even out of Dane County, several police chiefs speaking in terms of how outrageous it was to see what they saw as well. I mean, do you get a sense that there is this overwhelming consensus that white America, black and brown America, they were outraged by this video?
Yeah, I think a lot of people was outraged. And to your point, we hear people talk, but we've heard people talk in the past. I think the best way you show your talk means something if it's followed by action. So you can't talk the talk unless you walk the walk. So for all of the politicians that said something, we'd love to see some type of legislation passed that shows what's going to happen. For all of those police officers, we want to see them practice those right things. Here in Milwaukee, we all too often hear this talk when it's there to quench the pain, to bring the people down. However, things go back to normal after a few days. So what we want to see is that talk matched by action.
All right, Dr. Smith, we appreciate you.